Welcome back to the Tailosive EV podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Randy's looking...
Another one has joined the NACS.
There's been so many that have joined the NACS port.
But the one who said it would never do it, did it.
I guess here, before we jump into what Lucid has become, I teased you guys at the very beginning.
Good one, Mike.
Right before we recorded tech, because a little behind the scenes, we recorded tech before EV. I sent y'all a video.
I had no idea. Okay.
Yeah, you did. And you told me not to watch it.
You now have my permission to die and click on it and see what I saw the other day.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Whoa.
This is 26 seconds.
Oh, jeez. That happened. That happened.
Watching.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
He saw it. Whoa.
Did you lick it?
Did you flip around? Beautiful.
Yeah, I kind of turned around.
Wow.
Smart. I would have done the same thing. I wouldn't care if a family member was late for a flight. I would have turned around. Ooh. Wow.
So,
like,
I'm sure Drew will put that there in the edit, hopefully. I got to see another Cybertruck prototype. The second prototype I've seen in person. The first one being the original prototype. The second one being a release candidate prototype, which was very exciting.
Wow.
I audibly
That's awesome.
went, oh my gosh, that's awesome! And then got stuck at a light. I'm like, if I'm stuck at this light, let me just turn around. There's not much traffic during the time that I saw it. And this was in the Bay Area, of course. Specifically the Sunnyvale area, if anyone's interested, because Tesla's in the Sunnyvale area. But yeah, so Cybertruck was going a different direction. I pulled a U-turn, and then it parked in front of a Starbucks. And so then I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be the weirdo that goes
the
right
rules. I have money. And he just turned around.
So I parked in a parking lot that was a safe and nice parking lot and all that. But I walked out, took a photo of it from across the street, and then thought, I'm good. I have to go to work anyways. But and run some other errands.
I would have licked it.
But oh goodness. But what was interesting, I don't know if you guys caught it at the very end. There's an image of it behind a Lexus crossover, and it's somehow shorter than the Lexus crossover. But the suspension
I was
isn't
looking
down
at nothing
too
but
much.
the Cybertruck.
I know, me too.
You're right.
I was
What the heck?
quite surprised after the fact when I was looking at the photos. I'm like, wait a second, this Cybertruck is lower than a Lexus crossover, and the suspension doesn't look bottomed out. And I showed this to my wife, and she's like, that's awesome. Did it feel like a big truck? And I'm like, it's kind of hard to tell even in person. Because even when I walked up and took a photo from across the street, at that exact moment, I felt the same that I felt when I saw it in the Peterson Museum, which was a bit surprising. It was very much like, oh, cool, it's here. That's great. But like, I didn't feel any big, I mean, I was excited when I first saw it on the road. It's like, wow, it's like seeing something that I've only seen in the museum statically, but seeing it on the road now was a surprise. I think it in motion is what excited me the most, because seeing it parked behind the Lexus, yeah, it's surprising how low or high it can sit. But when it's just sitting there, it wasn't as interesting to me per se. Only when it was moving, it was like my brain was having a hard time trying to figure out, wait, it's real and it's on the road.
Makes it more real. Yeah.
Yeah. Where it's sitting on the side of the road, it didn't feel I didn't feel that punch in the gut of surprise, per se.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to share that with y'all because I didn't even tell you
That's
guys,
so
of
cool.
course. I want to get your honest
you were
reaction
sitting on that for a while.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous, honestly. I can't say with complete certainty, but I was in the Bay Sunday night, and I thought I might have saw one, but I wasn't sure. It was dark, and they were in the opposite. They were going the opposite direction, so I didn't have much time.
I can say with certainty, I definitely did not see one.
What's been interesting is being back in the Bay there's so many EVs, and of course the new modern car movement is light bars on the back, on the front, everywhere.
That's true.
And so every single time during the day or during the night that I see a car with a light bar, I'm like, is that the Cybertruck? Is that the Cybertruck? And it's like coming from afar, and it's coming towards me like, it has to be the Cybertruck. Wait, is it? No. And finally it happened that this one was at the most unexpected
I'm usually
time.
pretty good at detecting the different light bars. Like the Lightning has the little squiggle going down off the sides. So usually it's pretty obvious at night. Oh, that's a Lightning. I see the light bar. Rivian's painfully obvious because you've got the Dyson Airblade headlights. So it's just like, oh yeah, that's a Rivian. This one that went by was definitely a light bar, but with brighter sides. And
That sounds like a Mercedes to me then. Because I've been tricked by a few
could have
Mercedes being here in the Bay. I'm like, oh, that has to be one.
But
no, it's not.
all that the split second when I turned and looked and it was already going past was it had a very sharp angular top. I could see a point, and I was like, is that I don't know. So I
think
will not
that's-
count it, but
That is the
all
one
I
thing that
can
I wanted to
say
also
is
bring up
I'm
as
peeling.
well, Drew. Is that
eyes are peeled.
the thing about the Cybertruck is it doesn't look massive or huge, or at least the dimensions that they describe, because when we think about a truck, it has like a definite height for a certain distance. It's like, all right. it's like about 6 feet high for a decent amount of length before it cuts off and goes into the bed. The Cybertruck just gets to that height for 1 point and then goes back down. And I think that's the
Right.
more deceptive thing, where it doesn't feel like a truck. Both looking at it, I mean, I haven't
Yeah.
driven one, but like just looking at it both in person and in photos/videos, it
The
doesn't
proportions
look
don't
huge.
line up with any other vehicle very well because no
Right.
other vehicle has that shape.
Even looking at photos and videos of it and then seeing both prototypes, it's still pretty tough to try to figure out the proportions of this thing, even though we've gotten some leaks recently about the Cybertruck having certain specs, or at least certain dimensions, that one leak alleged for whatever dimensions it has and also what features it has.
Personally, after seeing those dimensions, I'm thrilled because I'm more of the smaller, smarter pickup truck design. I'm not in favor of bigger is better, and I
are no
don't
American.
see that narrative a lot. It's very un-American, that's true. But I see people online always trying to look at the Cybertruck in comparison. That's why they'll hate your shots, Mike, because it makes the Cybertruck look smaller than another vehicle, which so many people are against. They're just like, no, they'll take as many photos as they can. Oh my God, it's huge, it's massive, it's big, it's the biggest truck ever. And I'm like, why do we care so much about how big it is? Like, I want to know.
It's a
like,
couple
just how
inches
smart it is.
larger than the Rivian in many different dimensions. And
I think
already,
it's smaller than the Lightning, which is a perk in my opinion. Maybe depending on who you ask, it's a downside. But the dimensions I saw comparing it to the Lightning said longer bed, shorter frunk, but overall dimensions it's like 7 inches shorter than a Lightning, while still having a bigger bed than the Lightning. So
well, I
you
think
lose
that's the
some front
benefit of
space.
having that big bed on the back, where like it is basically a drawbridge, where you
Yeah.
can be able to put whatever length objects in it without a midgate. But yeah,
I can't
that
run
was
them all.
that was a big surprise, and came at an interesting time with that kind of leak coming out, and then also
Yeah, when did
some
you
of
see
other-
the truck?
I saw it, I think 2 days ago or yesterday. Was it yesterday?
Oh,
I forget. All the
gonna
days
say.
have blurred together.
2 days ago, I was in the area.
Oh,
Dang.
why didn't you say hi, jerk?
I didn't have time. It was also midnight. I wanted to be polite. I figured.
It's like Randy stopping in and being like, oh yeah, I was hanging out for a bit, and then just that was it.
Why do you gotta drag my name into this?
Because you haven't talked in a while. I'm trying to include you in the conversation.
Oh, thank you. I'm very
dragging
jealous
in whether
of
you
your
like it or not.
observations, Mike. I wish I could have been there because I would have, give it an inch, I would have taken a mile. I would have crossed the street and touched the living heck out. Like, I would have.
I think you're going to be on par though with the amount of times or amount of Rivians I see per day.
Put a picture.
In your new
Florida
abode
man.
where you're moving to is going to be probably on par with how many Rivians you see in a given day.
So, this is slightly bigger than an R1T.
It's a bit bigger. I mean, like a couple inches bigger in different dimensions, but it's not
I've seen Rivians. I'm more of a Tacoma fan myself. I don't say no to an F-150, but what Drew was saying, I actually favor more of a smaller size.
I love
Of
the
course, 'cause
Maverick. I see
The
Mavericks
Maverick's
all
nice,
over.
dude. Yes.
Mavericks
really
are
like the
cutest,
size.
best
Unironically,
truck
I
ever.
actually like them.
They need
I
to make
like the
more of
Maverick
those. They need
too.
to triple down on those. I think they should kill
If
off
they
the
made
Ranger.
an electric Maverick,
Do the Maverick full on.
I think
Replace
they
the
will.
Ranger line with the Maverick line.
To compete with Rivian or to compete with not a Silverado. What's
You want Chevy, you want Ram,
I'm thinking Chevy because Chevy's the big contender, right?
the Colorado.
Colorado. To compete, I would say definitely do an electric Maverick. That would be so dope. Because the thing, well, in general, I think there's a bigger market share if we have smaller trucks outside of the U.S. because they don't care about big trucks. 2, it's cheaper. Or ideally, it should be cheaper than having a bigger truck. So it would just have more volume to here in the U.S. 3, every Model Y needs its Model 3, so they should have a smaller variant of it. And but I would very much, and this is my bias speaking, I would very much like to see Tesla do 2 sizes as well, for sure. And I hope the Cybertruck is the bigger of the 2.
I really want them to. I don't believe they will.
Same.
Every time they talk about doing more
Same.
models, Elon's like, we don't need more models. It's extremely hard. It's so hard. It's hard to build, mass produce. It's really hard. I cannot emphasize enough. I think he said that 10 times on the podcast. I think.
I don't doubt it.
He's like,
mean,
I cannot emphasize enough how hard. I'm like, I think you can, actually. You know what?
You're doing it right now.
It may be
I think
possible
was it
to
the,
emphasize too much. I get it.
The quarterly updates from all these companies on how much money they're losing making EVs, I think, is a good enough metric for how hard it is to make a profitable EV lineup.
It's early
true.
phase, right? Like early phase is not about being profitable. It's about market
still
share.
early.
Well, you gotta compete.
Let's hope it's
with
early. To some, it
feel
could
like it
be
is.
late stage.
No,
We're
the
witnessing
fact
the
that
beginning
everybody's
of the end.
the fact that
I think it's
everybody's
still
falling
early.
in live. Yeah, I do too, Mike. Because everyone's falling in line to Tesla's network. That tells me, they either adapt with the times or die. And even companies that aren't real will adapt. So I think it's
Oh my
I think it's still
goodness.
early. I think they will all be focused on market share in this early curvature. We're not at the end of the life. Now, burning cash, that's a real problem though, and you do have to have some type of you're not going to make your money off your customers selling really any EV, any truck, anything, unless you're Ford, or in your legacy automaker like Ford or Chevy or your Tesla, because they have a decade over everybody. All these other guys, they're just, you're not going to be profitable with your customers yet, but you better hope that you have some deep-pocketed investors to help. And I hear the Saudis are doing pretty good for themselves, so there's that. But at some point, I think what we're going to see, and maybe this is where other versions of vehicles might overlap, I think we're going to see acquisitions, mergers, and people teaming up for just to stay alive, just to live to fight one more day. I don't know. You know how I said, like, statistically they all can't make it? That's still true. But mergers and acquisitions kind of like fix that. And it's Tesla versus them. And nobody is the new Tesla. Nobody's the new Apple. Nobody's the new Bitcoin. No one's the new nothing. It's like once you cement it, your place in that sphere. I got my spheres on the mind now with Vegas. Once you cement it, your spot there, it's really hard to kind of like dethrone that. Not in the first 10, 20 years for sure, but I don't know. I don't know if we're going to see as much activity once we get more market share happening. What's the magic number? 2025, 2030, whatever. When everyone's like, oh, no more fossil fuel. Da, da, da. Whenever that happens, that's when we're going to see like drastic movements with all these companies. Like, oh God, fight for survival, because it's sink or swim at that point. So you can get on someone else's life raft and they acquire you, or there's some type of something big has got to happen. And then in that sense, that's when everything gets a little bit more vibrant too for us as the consumer. We will then see all these weird. Right now we're still Cybertruck, like there's all these new looks and styles. It's the 1940s to the 1960s style of like everything's getting really weird with it, and then refinement. I mean, we talked about it, I think, last week about the R2 network. Like it's all about refinements. Drew talked about something in one of his videos. I think it was you, Drew. I'm pretty sure it was you, about how like we don't need ambient lights inside the cabin. That's just costing at this even at this point. It's like, how can we just like get our costs down and make it more accessible for everybody? And that's in the form of refinement. We're not going to see drastic changes like the Cybertruck is the last big whoa thing that we're going to see for a very, very, very long time, especially in the Tesla side. But after that, it's just refine.
I'd argue Aptera will be the next big one, because that's fundamental.
Your bias is so strong, but I don't disagree.
I mean, it's coming from a grassroots company, like straight off of the startup train, still in the startup train. It hasn't left the station of startup yet, where
I agree.
Tesla's kind of gone down the tracks a decent amount at this point to where they're most likely not. So I think Randy's right in regards to it's a big, different design that we probably haven't seen from a very established automotive company in a long time, where something like Aptera, well, we've kind of seen with products like the Arcimoto before the Cybertruck was a thing. Like, weird, different thing. Still, yeah, I guess we've seen some stuff that is three-wheeler, like the Polaris, not Crossbow, because that's the KTM, the Slingshot, the Polaris Slingshot. Stuff like that exists. So, yeah, I guess.
I mean,
I don't know.
Other than the fact that they have three wheels, I don't think there's that many similarities, honestly. Not in price, range, efficiency, powertrain. I mean, it's kind of like saying, well, we had a DeLorean made of stainless steel, so Cybertruck's not that new. It's like,
there are
but
lots of different similarities between those vehicles. Someone parked their DeLorean right next to a Cybertruck in San Francisco, and surprisingly, a lot of the features were very similar, like the lights, were like multiple of the brake lights sections on the DeLorean. If you took basically one of those little bricks out and you put it on the back of the Cybertruck on the bottom, it basically fit, or it looked like it fit. And the same with how the sides were also, or at least the back window was kind of structured, or at least not structured, but how it was designed looked somewhat similar. But that it's most likely chalked up to the Cybertruck designers looking at the DeLorean as inspiration, rather than two things that are stainless steel made in two different black boxes turn out to be the same. But
Well,
brought
hard
the up.
steel kind of boxes you into corners design-wise. You can't be as curvy or as rounded. No pun intended. But yeah, I agree. This is probably one of the biggest vehicle launches of all time, simply because the U.S. market loves pickup trucks, and Tesla is the most valuable automaker in the world, and this is their first pickup truck. So it's kind of the merging of two big cultures, and that creates a lot of tension, a lot of hype, and a lot of hate, which just means views and clicks and everybody having an opinion on it. So I understand that hype and excitement. I get behind it. But I think it says something that the Cybertruck you saw was being used to move someone to a Starbucks.
Well, yeah, I guess, and
This
that's
is
just how it's going to be in
pickup trucks are
society.
used. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to highlight as well, in which I think was it Mike Cyber Owners on
There
Twitter
is nothing
highlighted.
wrong with Starbucks, by the way.
No,
Really?
it's just
You're
how
defending
much-
Starbucks now, Randy? This is
Wait,
news to
do
me.
people not like Starbucks? What happened?
Randy was crapping on them in the last podcast of the podcast before that, last week or the week before.
That's right.
And now he's saying there's nothing wrong with them.
I still own stock. I have to defend my position.
Oh, okay. Well, here. Well, I was mentioning before,
they
Mike
do?
Cyber Owners on Twitter, somehow he pieced this together in which I wouldn't have thought of, because there's two Cybertrucks hanging out in Tahoe doing some off-road testing. Someone got a picture of the VINs, or at least, the nice little VINs on their the front dash.
Is it Austin?
And he took it. So he took it immediately to the NHTSA decoder.
Oh,
And what
right.
surprised me
I saw that.
is that, like, I didn't think that you could combine these letters or at least have different permutations. I thought it was very much set on, like, if you have a dual motor, you're always going to get the Class G dual motor, which means
Right.
that it has a GVWR between 8 to 9,000 pounds. And then you'd always
Is
get
that
the
gross vehicle weight ratio? Is that the R?
rated, I think. Gross vehicle weight rated.
Rated. Okay.
Ratio would not make sense
you.
because you're talking about specific numbers for what its max payload can be.
Okay.
So I thought dual motors would always be D for dual motor in that decoder, and then G for, because it's a lighter weight system per se, it'd always be 8 to 9. But the ones that he found, or at least the ones that we saw go up to Tahoe and someone got a picture of their VINs, it's not the case. These are dual motors that have a larger payload capacity because they're Class H and not Class G, where Class G is from 8,000 to 9,000 pounds. The Class H is from 9,000 to 10,000 pounds, which just makes me think, is it then possible to get a dual motor that has a bigger battery pack and it's not just exclusive to the tri-motor? Or do we have a scenario where the dual motor is actually always going to get the larger payload capacity of 9,000, 10,000 pounds and always have the Class H decoder naming to it, where the tri-motor performance is always going to have the Class G, which is an 8,000 to 9,000, just because it's more performance-oriented rather than range-oriented.
Huh.
I want to get your
Well-
guys' thoughts on, like, does this mean the dual motor is guaranteed to have longer range and is likely going to have something along the lines of 400 miles of range or something like that?
Okay, so my initial reaction would say no, but then I have to, like, I'm torn there because their whole shtick back in 2019 was that, like, oh, it's going to go over 400, 500 miles. Like, that was what they were saying. But we never saw the products, like, roll out like that. My gut reaction says no. I'm being more conservative on my, like, I don't think it's going to be all that revolutionary right now. My gut instinct is to say no first. But
Okay.
I want to believe, I do, because they did talk about, this will easily go 400, 500. I mean, Mike, our wives are one and the same. Like, what did they care about? Why did they even take interest in it? It was because of the range, right? So I want to believe that Cybertruck will hold up to it. I understand that cost will change. I accept that. But I want to believe the specs don't really change all that much, or they've only improved over the last 4 years. I would like to see that happening, but my first reaction is saying no. It does not mean we'll see a 400-mile dual motor. God, I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong there.
What do you think, Drew?
Well,
because it seems like, I guess what I wanted to add on as well to get your thoughts in addition to this, because it still is related. You always thought that Cybertrucks were just going to be like the Model T. You want a car? Here it is in black. Take it. That's it. That's the only option you get. But now we're seeing different rims, and even I think Joe Tegmeyer was showing that there's different interior colors. There is now a black and a white, in which we saw the white previous months ago at the Peterson Museum when Franz took it there recently. But there was one at Giga, Texas, with a different interior than the others. A white interior versus, I think, 3 or 4 black interiors. So with that, is it feasible that there are different options for range for the dual motor, or at least is it just subjected to one orientation with its motors and payload capacity?
Yeah, I guess it could mean a couple of things. I mean, the higher weight rating also could just be commentary on really good payload capacity. That class does not necessarily give us the curb weight. And I'm still thinking back to what Elon said on the podcast, but maybe I shouldn't be relying on him because he said, 6,500 to 7,000 pounds. But
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
I suppose
2 weeks.
If you wanted a longer range vehicle, the dual motor would do it easier just because it's going to be more energy efficient than the tri-motor.
And that's kind of been the traditional thing or mindset, right? We've seen that with most, or if not all, Tesla trims for the sexy lineup. If you want longer range, you go for the dual motor Model Y. If you want more performance, you go for the performance, or at least same with the Model S would probably fit the bill better. So range, dual motor, performance.
I think it's possible that they're toying around with all kinds of configurations, maybe. Like just because we've seen sightings of certain designs, I don't think that necessarily means they'll be in production. It reminds me of like there was a Model 3 prototype in matte black back in 2016, and it had Model S door handles. And they showed that on stage.
Performance rims.
Right. And then that was, we could have seen that and said, oh, maybe there will be an option that has Model S handles, but nope, there never was. So sightings nothing's guaranteed at this point for me. It's all kind of up in the air. Maybe they're toying around with interior choices or rim choices and trying to figure out which one has the best style. I saw one really small aero cap that everyone hated on. And I'm like, maybe Tesla's kind of...
That was the ugly duckling of the group.
Right. Maybe Tesla's kind of gauging the room with all these different rim designs. I've seen probably 3 or 4 now, different kinds of Cybertruck rim. Makes me wonder if they're kind of looking at the internet's reactions to see what can we get away with, what do people like and not like. But you're right. It is kind of weird that the Cybertruck is the only vehicle Tesla said where the tri-motor would get more range than the dual motor. That hasn't really come up anywhere else. So I wonder if, because it would be easier to get more range out of that powertrain, they kind of throw out the old configuration list that they dropped 4 years ago, because that's dated and Tesla changes their minds on things constantly. Maybe they say the 500-mile range is with the dual motor and the tri-motor gets less than that, and that can just be the more performance-oriented one, because I've been wondering myself for a while, with the cyber cells at their current energy density, it's not going to be easy to get a vehicle that large, that inefficient to go 500 miles other than just raw battery. So I've been saying for a while, I think they need every trick in the book they can get, everything that can help them to get high range numbers. So yeah, maybe dual motor does make more sense, and I'm thinking about it backwards. We shouldn't hold them to what they said, because they don't typically stick to what they've claimed. They change their mind a lot.
No one's gotten close to a towing capacity of 14,000 pounds. The closest has been Rivian with 11,000 pounds. And then everyone else with payload capacity is usually hovering around 1,500 to 2,500. None of them are really touching about 3,500 necessarily.
How heavy is your trailer, Mike?
Not too heavy. It's around like 3,400 pounds.
Wow.
So,
Jeez.
like, if I got...
trying to figure out who needs 14,000 pounds towing capacity.
So
what
that's
are you
kind of the
towing
problem,
with
right? We had the money to get something larger. The problem was that our truck physically could not tow it, because its max towing capacity was like 37 or 4,000. Yeah, 3,700 pounds or 4,000 pounds. And you want
Does it have to do with the truck's weight overall? Does that affect your towing capacity?
Most likely, yeah, but there's a lot of
figured it
mechanics along with it. There's powertrain as well. There's the structure of the truck as well. Like, think about Super Duties versus like F-150s. F-150s versus F-250s. What's the difference between those two? It's a larger body that's having to provide enough power and have enough structural rigidity to tow something that is much heavier behind it, or at least have some way to couple to it, right? Like, you can get like a fifth wheel or a gooseneck with a 150 or 1,500, but it's all down to what can the truck handle, both structurally and also just powertrain wise. Like, I think a good measure of it's like, you can put in a whole bunch of power into like any car. You could put it into like a Model 3, make it the most, like, basically what Unplugged Performance does with the Model 3. You can make it super powerful, but if it doesn't have the structure to support the power, or at least support accessories, it's going to be pretty delicate.
Sure.
So it's all about how you engineer the system structurally and also just power-wise. But that was my dilemma, is like, the truck that we have can't tow anything more than most likely what we got is 3,500. We could bring it up to the max, but then we have to worry about going up hills and whether we can go up a hill with the power that we have in the V6 that we have. And also just, it is a 4x4, but that's only going to get you so far. You're not really, you're not typically towing in 4x4. You usually want to, on highways, be as efficient as possible. So you don't need to have all four wheels driving the system. You can have two, in which that's what most of these electric trucks are trying to do now, is be able to decouple the front motor, if it's a dual motor system, which most are, is be able to decouple that front motor, so that way the back motors are just the ones that are driving the system, so that way you get an efficiency boost and you can actually go further. But
I guess my caveat, talking about your towing use cases, and I know how common that is for a lot of pickup truck owners, and a lot of people want the Cybertruck specifically for towing, is I'm guessing both of you guys, range is the king, right? If you're in the market for a Cybertruck, you're going for which one has the most range. My confusion would be, if the tri-motor has worse range, probably would cost more. What market is the tri-motor for? Just people who want a more performance-oriented pickup? Like, what?
Yeah. Well, why does the Ram Rebel exist? Why does the Ford Raptor exist? Or the Ram TRX exist?
You'll have to enlighten me, because I don't know either. There's performance-oriented trucks. Is that a thing?
Why does the GMC Sierra Denali with whatever packages exist. It's for those that want to add
I still don't know.
that much more performance, that much bouginess to it. The fact that you can get a truck that goes like 3 seconds in 0 to 60 is insane. And the fact that you can flex that is something that people want to buy.
To me, that just seems like a much more narrow market, I guess, because it's not that performance in trucks is not prioritized. I get that. It's just that the dual motor would still probably be doing 0 to 60 in like 4 seconds, and I imagine would still be very fast, very capable, and have the great range. And usually in the case of the Model S and X, the dual motor's cheaper. So
you're highlighting just the existence of why does a performance version of a vehicle exist? Why does the performance Model Y exist? Why don't they just sell the dual motor? There's no reason to sell a performance Model Y because it's just a crossover SUV. It's already sporty in terms of its shape and how fast it can accelerate with the long range. Performance doesn't make sense for the Y, but it exists. Same with the X. Why does the Plaid X exist? Why is that a thing? It just does. It's what people want. They want something that goes quick.
We'll probably be the fastest production truck, I think.
Something to flex.
Or
and they can add some different things with it as well. Like only with the performance or Plaid or tri-motor Cybertruck, you get a carbon fiber dash or something. That too.
Yeah.
Or like a checkered Plaid, whatchamacallit, on top of the tailgate, basically like where the buttons
Brakes
are.
come separately.
Yeah.
You need to pay extra for those ceramic brakes. Would that affect your guys' price predictions if the longer range Cybertruck is the dual motor?
Ooh.
Not really, in my opinion. I think it's still going to stack up where it is. It just means probably if people were mainly going for the tri-motor originally just for range, then we're going to see a big shift of people going down. You don't think so?
No. I think what you were alluding to and all that in regards to performance, like why do these performance ones exist? People don't get performance because they care about range. And I know that from now personal experience because that's what my wife did. She didn't care about range. She does care about range, but when she chose range over performance, she wanted power over range. So,
okay.
And
I was gonna say at least my thoughts on the matter is that the idea of a dual motor Cybertruck that goes more than 400 miles in a single charge is a very alluring product. Like the Silverado, in which is barely coming to the market right now, goes 450 miles on a single charge, even though you're having to hypermile it a decent amount. But like it's, so far as I can tell, it's the best towing EV truck you can get on the market because it's got 450 miles of range. So you get a little bit more range while towing, where things like the Rivian and the F-150, they're decent trucks. They go a good amount, but people just want that range anxiety quelled. And that's why they want something with a little bit more range, even if they're not even towers or people that put a whole bunch of payload into their truck. They like more range. And that's why you see a lot of people gravitate towards the long range Model Y or the long range Model 3, because they want some security in when they're driving an electric vehicle that they can make it to the next stall.
What I think Mike was getting at was that there were a lot of people that may have been reserving or interested in the tri-motor purely because the tri-motor was said to have more range, not because they actually wanted 3 motors.
Yes.
And if that range advantage shifted to now, the tri-motor has worse range than the dual motor, then you'd see a lot of people switch away from tri-motor just because, well, I wasn't reserving the tri-motor for the acceleration. I was reserving it because I thought it would get more range. So maybe that's where you might see a big shift in reservations if dual motor had more. But
It's where I'll shift.
I don't know. I'm not entirely sure that the GVWR is saying that, personally. I think it might just be a reference to the payload capacity being really good.
It's just curious to me that the dual motor, well, yeah, I guess the performance, I don't know. With performance, you have to, I guess it's a big unknown, I guess is what I'll quell all of that conundrum with. It's still a big question mark, and I wanted to get your guys' opinion on.
That's a good question.
At least what my expectations were from the NHTSA's decoder for the Cybertrucks, and then what we have seen from these two that came from Tahoe, and that they're dual motor, but they have a higher payload capacity than a performance, in which I guess I was associating higher payload capacity, or at least higher GVWR, to the performance. Just
It's
because
not to
it
say it's
would be
impossible.
heavier with an extra motor and likely maybe more cells.
Yeah. No, it's totally, you could be right. It's possible that it's because of a higher curb weight. So it's a possibility we haven't entertained enough, I suppose. But not, in my opinion, it's not a guarantee, but it's a combination of payload capacity and curb weight, and we just don't know where that line is. It's unclear. But this points to the idea of that line being higher, which points to the idea of a bigger battery pack. But, to be fair, Model S and X, they put the same battery, whether you get the dual or the tri-motor. And I do agree that Tesla probably would want to have the simplest manufacturing line possible. So I haven't entertained that possibility that maybe the two trims both have massive battery packs in them. Maybe the dual and the tri can both comfortably exceed 400, and the dual can just go a little more than 400, and the tri can just barely hit 400.
390 versus 410, kind of like with what we have right now with the Model 3s or the Model Ys, where it's a little bit above 300 and a little bit below 300.
Yep, that would align kind of with Tesla's current configurations. They're usually not too keen to have varying battery pack sizes, but that's kind of what they were pointing to at the original unveiling. But they've probably changed their mind a lot since then. So
I'd hope so.
That'd be cool.
Not Tesla.
That'd be interesting.
That is something, honestly, you bring that up. That's something my wife also brought up, is that Tesla's always changing their mind. They're always mixing things up, and you never know what to expect at the end of the day, even like at the end of the week, of like what's going to be new with the Tesla website, or like what are they going to cut out of the lineup, or what are they going to add to the lineup. It's a big old question.
They dropped radar, and then they put HD radar in the Model S and X, which Elon said is an experiment. I think that lost a lot of investor confidence, honestly, was that comment.
You think so? Have you?
I thought that...
Is that something that you've seen?
Elon was probably... Well, I just know that after the earnings calls, the stock tends to not do so well. And I'm like, okay, then why are we doing these things? If it's supposed to... Well, he just said that to make the investors... Well, they don't look happy. Look at the price. It's still
the adverse effect.
But, yeah, it's like, wouldn't it... I honestly think the stock would probably do better if Elon wasn't on those calls. Because he just
We've talked about this. Yeah.
Yeah, he digs
I think the
his grave
company
over and
just
over.
people would be like, all right, yeah, FSD's going to come in 2 weeks.
I would agree that Tesla would probably not develop or grow as quickly in the full self-driving team or in the Tesla bot team. I'm just of the believer that neither of those are as important as Elon thinks they are. I think they're less crucial. But what happened was someone was asking about rumors of, is the HD radar coming back in the Model Y? And Elon responded to, no, the Model Y and the 3 are not getting any new radar. We put a Tesla-designed high-definition radar in the Model S and X as a science experiment, but the jury is still out on whether or not it helps. And I'm like, so you're telling us after, 6-7 years of next year, it'll be level 5 robotaxi next year. After all this time, you're still unsure how many sensors you need for autonomy?
Sounds
like if you're
sane to me, honestly. Tesla's always throwing things at the wall to see whether it works or not.
right, but to me, in 2019, I remember Elon saying that hardware 3 was everything you needed to achieve level 5, right? We've got those cameras, and we've got this custom designed full self-driving computer. That covers everything, and it's purely a software game. We have the hardware since 2019. We have all the hardware we need, and it's just a matter of figuring out the software. But if it's 2023 and you're trying to figure out, do we need this? Maybe we do need this. Or maybe we don't. I don't know. Like, and you're putting HD radar in production cars to see if it makes a difference in performance of FSD. It's like, okay, that's kind of an expensive experiment. Like every car, we're going to add this new sensors, and not only that's either a waste of money and you find out you don't need HD radar, or what's even worse is you find out you do. Because now everyone who paid for FSD, both Randy and Mike, Tesla's going to have to go install HD radars, which who knows if their computers are compatible with, or update the radars. I guess you guys have deactivated radars now. And now everybody who paid for FSD or wants to pay for the subscription has to get this retrofit for a Tesla-designed radar. So I was like, if it's been this long and you're still not sure you're not absolutely positive what hardware you need, then a lot of people are going to lose faith in your ability to execute. Like, do you really know how to make this work if you're like...
Yeah. Imagine radar on the Cybertruck.
Oh.
How are you going to put those in?
That might be a challenge. Well, there's some gray, black...
I guess you just hole punch and then you throw them in and there you go.
You have to open the frunk. When you activate FSD, the front goes... and it covers your windshield.
Then you just can't see.
You can't see, but the cameras can. It's fine. They've got the front bumper camera, so it'll just drive with that. You'll have this big open front going 80 miles an hour.
I guess that's another thing that I wanted to bounce off of you guys as well with some of the most recent views of the Cybertruck is that it doesn't look like the frunk is that impressive. It's like half the size of the F-150 Lightning, or even less than that. And it doesn't, as it appears right now in some of the release candidates or the prototypes, there's no plugs up there. And the only plugs that there are in the back, and as far as we can tell from the most recent photos, there's only 2 110 plugs and 1 220, which is impressive to have a giant 220 plug in there. Yeah. But that's it. It's just 3 plugs. There's no, as we can tell right now, no air compressor spout or basically hookup. And I can't see anything else there that they've kind of promised or at least shown in the original prototype, like multiple hatches for whatever you want to plug into. It's just one panel in the back corner furthest away from the front. So good luck if you've got a flat tire on the front right that you need to power up with air. What am I trying to say? Fill up with air.
I know what you're trying to say. Air compressors are cool, but I don't think, personally, it's totally a Tesla move, is what I saw. It's like the very few outlets, no air compressor. I was like, that would be what Tesla would do as the mass production, scalable company that knows how to build EVs profitably. They're usually the ones that skimp out on a lot of details like that. And air compressor built in is nice, but it's a very simple accessory to get aftermarket. Like, I don't think it's that like big a deal to have it built. I mean, for one, I've heard a lot of people complain about the built-in air compressor on the Rivians going out or not being too reliable. And
Interesting.
I bought like what was it? It was like $15. I got a 12-volt air compressor for my Model 3. And it's this tiny little thing that I throw in the sub trunk. And one time I got a nail and I needed to fill up the tire, and I just plug it into the little 12-volt outlet, and boom, it fills up. And I'm sure there's fancier ones you could get with the 110 or whatever. But to me, it's not like deal breaker, deal maker kind of accessories. It's just, it's that 8 gigs of RAM thing. You know, people are like, well, if I pay this much for a truck, it has to come with all these extra things. And Tesla's the one always challenging it. Does it though? Does it really? You love us, don't you? You want a Cybertruck. You're gonna take what we give you. You're
gonna say thank you.
Force feed you. You know, the Cybertruck won't even come with lifetime navigation. I try to remind people that earlier this week, everyone was rediscovering that fine print, which was funny.
Those fools.
I remember when they first made that change. That was like well over a year ago. That was like a year and a half ago, and people are like, "Wait, navigation's only free for 8 years?" And I was like, What happens after 8 years? Hasn't. They changed it in July of 2022. So our Model 3s, we get lifetime navigation.
User
and Model Y.
Yeah, but not
can't forget
not the Mrs.
Not the
Model
Performance Y.
To go on your thing though, Mike, Ford like they marketed how impressive their front was going to be, and the bed as well. Like they went out of their way to like highlight, like, look at this, we have all this new cool blah blah, and Tesla never did that. So it doesn't bother me that it's smaller than the F-150 because it's still bigger than, you know, and just from like height alone, it's bigger than what I can do with the Model Y. And
it's true. They never really marketed the front of the Cybertruck.
No,
at all.
I was gonna say it's probably one of those passing images.
Yeah, we had a speculation on it based off of looking at the photos and stuff like that. They've never talked about it because they didn't have, unlike where Ford was like, hey, look how cool this is. Look at that.
Well, with the Lightning, that was the only thing they changed. If you ignored the front of the Lightning, it was the exact same truck. It's just electric. So the front was really where all the attention went. I love the front, by the way, of the Lightning, but it's all like all car engineering. It's all compromise, right? Cybertruck's got a bigger bed, but a smaller front. Lightning's got a bigger front, but a smaller bed. You know, it's just pick your battles.
Yeah. Right? Or if you get a Ram Charger, you get no frunk, but you get a whole bunch of bed.
That's fair.
I wanted to get your guys' thought on that as well, since we're in the truck category right now. If you guys caught Ram's recent announcement of a second EV truck, but not really an EV in a way.
That was not an EV.
But it's not a hybrid in the way that you think, where... okay, so at least I'll explain my thought process on Ram's new 1500 Ram Charger that's coming out in 2025, and how my brain initially went from, ew, gross, why would they ever make this, to, this is the best idea ever, I kind of want one now.
Oh boy.
I know I'm turning into Nick. I'm considering a gas car again.
All right. We found Mike's last episode. Here we go.
All right, Nick. 2.0. Freaking.
So, Ram announces this new 1500. It's like kind of their last 1500 that they announced in this 2025 lineup of their 1500s, where they got the regular 1500, all its different trims, and they've got the Rev with its different trims, and now the Ram Charger. Supposed to have 690 miles of range, which was the big eye-catching number to me. Well, it's not plugged in all the time.
It's unlimited when plugged in.
When plugged in.
Yeah, it's not the Vision Pro. But has 690 miles of range.
Unlimited range. I saw that.
Oh, that's weird. But at least how they marketed it is, I think it's around like 150 miles of range with its 92 kilowatt hour battery, which is like just shy of 100 kilowatts. But the rest of that range from, was it 690 minus 150, is a V6 that isn't connected to anything except for the battery. Or I guess
like
it has
i3. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an i3
generator.
but on steroids. It doesn't have a transmission
as a
either.
truck. No, I'm
It's
just
the
picturing
best
an
vehicle
i3
ever,
as a
then.
truck.
And the i3's coming back, but
Ooh.
yeah, it's supposed to have a 3.6 liter V6 with around 17 to 27 gallons of gas in it.
These are just sounds to me. I don't know what you're saying.
Okay. Well, it's a dual motor system that can decouple its front motor as well, so it gets more range from the rear motor when it's driving.
Why the
it's a
rear?
400
Yeah, Drew.
because
Why
it's a more
doesn't it
efficient
do-
motor in the back than it is in the front.
Why doesn't the semi do that?
Why doesn't the Ram semi or the Tesla semi?
No, Rivians and Tesla semis decouple the rear motor for better efficiency at highway speeds.
Didn't know that Rivian had a semi. Oh, okay. So you're saying.
Rivian and Tesla semi, not the Rivian semi. That would be cool. Oh,
That
wow.
would be cool.
Is that just basically the EDV?
I just picture a semi truck with like really good ground clearance, and it goes off roading with the trailer.
The ultimate, what do they call those? The Overlanders. It's the ultimate Overlander EV.
Yes, it's just going up these rock walls at Moab with the semi truck.
Right. The weak point about this is that it's a 400 volt architecture that only gets 50 miles of range in 10 minutes. But I think its benefit is that you can gas it up.
That was my next question. What's the DC fast charging capability? But stupid me is like, well, if it's powered by gas, you wouldn't DC fast charge it. You would just dump more gas in there, right? So
Right. I guess kind of cutting it to the chase. It's a really good truck or an EV for in the city. So that way you don't have to use that V6 engine at all. I'm assuming that it doesn't kick in until you press a button or it gets to a certain threshold. Maybe it's running all the time.
You'd home charge it.
Yeah, you're basically home charging it all the time in the city, and then when you need to tow, it's got 690 miles of range if you fill up the gas tank,
right.
which I think is a really great trade-off because you're not always having to turn on the truck and the motor turns on and then you're having to deal with the noise and the complexity of that. It's always going at a very low RPM because it's not having to drive the wheels. All it's doing is supplying power to a 92 kilowatt hour battery pack.
My only caveat to this is while on paper I see what the logic is, but the market has kind of proven that a lot of people don't want to worry about both. In my opinion, this is kind of all the downsides of an EV and the downsides of gas is like you have a combustion process. I don't know if you can consider it an engine, but there's something that has to store gas.
It's a V6 engine.
Yeah, there's an engine that you have to worry about oil changes, how long can gas sit in there, because gas does get old. So if you were just driving it around town for months and months, that can cause problems with the engine. And then you also have a battery pack to worry about, its health and charging that. And it's kind of an inefficient EV and a super efficient gas. So I guess if you're constantly road tripping, I don't know. It's one solution to the EV trucks aren't fun for long distance towing. I just don't think it's the long term solution. I think it's a short term solution, but it still is
With
insistent on
long-term
relying
problems.
on. Yeah, it doesn't really get us off of the whole. We want to stop using gasoline. We don't want to go to gas stations anymore. This is just okay. How about
It's a compelling option though for those that don't want to go full EV yet. But it doesn't have the complexities of the hybrid with a transmission and all the maintenance of that transmission and having the motor work all the time. Where in this case, sorry, not the motor, the engine working all the time. In this case, the engine's not working much at all. All it's doing is supplying 130 kilowatts to a 92 kilowatt hour battery.
Mm-hmm.
And that's peak generation of power at 130 kilowatts. It doesn't have to hit 130 kilowatts all the time.
Yeah. So I would be curious how many people actually want to buy this, I guess, is my question. Because, I don't know, that's still a fairly large battery pack. So, in my opinion, that's kind of taking away a lot of cells from potential full EVs. Honestly, I kind of question why the battery pack needs to be so big if you're relying on a gas generator. Like, couldn't this same task been achieved with a 50 kilowatt hour pack?
You lack vision.
What do you think, Randy?
I don't know, man. I'm so out of my realm with we're very truck specific here. I've never.
We've gone too far down the truck lane.
Well, it's hard for me to put my own anecdotal like viewpoint on it. I just it's a realm I'm not all that familiar with at all. I know what I want to be familiar with, but I don't even. It's one thing to add commentary, but I'll just sound like a jerk. I don't, because I don't know what I'm talking about.
I'll sound like a jerk. That's okay.
Well, let me jump on this then. It can tow 14,000 pounds is what they're quoting. Similarly,
I'm
the same
convinced
number
the
that
weight has a big factor on towing capacity.
Yeah, I'd agree. It also has a payload capacity of 2,625 pounds, which is pretty close. I mean, it's a little bit less than the 1,500 rev, but it's still a decent amount for payload capacity. And it does a 0 to 60
Do you want to buy
4.4
this,
seconds.
Mike? You want to buy
I'm
this
considering it over the fact that if it means that I can tow whatever I want and not have to sit at the supercharger with animals in tow or anything else in tow during a time-sensitive trip, it's a great alternative. But I guess the way that my wife actually put it, because I asked her all these questions and asked, like, is this something that you'd rather prioritize? So here's what she said. It's all in contention. I'm like, what does that mean? And she's like, it's all in the same ring with the Cybertruck and the 1,500 rev. That's where she sees the Ram Charger as well. She thinks they're all pretty much on equal footing, and it's all based on price at this point. Who's going to deliver the specs and the price? They did not. Some people who, of course, are more familiar with Ram speculate it's around 65,000 to 100,000. And what's pretty funny is that's kind of what we're looking at with the Cybertruck as well.
Range. It's somewhere between $0 and $80 trillion in there.
Ooh,
somewhere.
That's a bigger range, but yeah.
I could probably afford that.
Well,
at the rate that Randy's buying iPhones, I'd say so.
Here's okay.
Randy's buying
I'll
homes.
concede that I think we're getting to a stage where, I mean, big picture, I think the dilemma of EV trucks not being great at towing, the solution is big battery packs with fast charging speed and an improved charging infrastructure. That's what I think the long-term solution is. Short-term solution, I suppose this could make a lot of people happy while they wait for the charging infrastructure to get beefed up. And to advocate in your favor for this monstrosity of a pickup. This two-faced, the Harvey Dent pickup truck.
Hey, Harvey Dent's cool.
He's got a half gasoline burned face and EV on the
Right
other
off.
side. Right out. I will concede.
Rap Charger.
Even with V4 superchargers popping up now, there's been, I think, 3 or 4 in the U.S. that have been tweeted out online. Mm-hmm. Most of the ones I've seen do not have pull-through stalls ready.
I've seen half of them have the pull-through. Actually,
but usually, even
50%
then,
of them.
it's like one stall that's pull-through.
Right.
Whereas someone with a gas pickup like you that's towing for, 80 years, however long your road trip was, and you're going
about
this
80
big,
years, yeah.
long distances.
I'm an old man now.
You drive 8 million miles a day. Every gas station you go to, is going to be probably pull through. There's going to be a Buc-ee's that you can pull in, load the gas, and that you don't have to unhook your trailer. Whereas with the Cybertruck, you're going to get all these little supercharging dots on the map, but you have no way of knowing, does that station has a pull-through? Does this station have a pull-through? Do I have to unhook my trailer every time I park? So I will say this is a good product if you buy it. How about that? Because
Oh, okay.
this is where I condense. The reason I say that, half joking, half not joking, because we're on the half and half subject, is that Mike is the perfect customer for this type of product. Because honestly, the way I see most people reacting to this is it ticks off the EV fanboys, like Randy and I, because we're like, no gas, I'm not going to a gas pump, screw you, go all in or go home, go big or go home, let's do all electric. And then you also tick off the gas people, because they're like, what, batteries? I don't need no battery in my truck, it runs on good old American gold, that
Dinosaur
oil. It runs on dinosaurs. So I just see you ticking off both parties, and I wonder where in the Venn diagram you find people happy with this option, which is basically Mike, someone who does long distance towing, but is still interested in EVs, knows enough about home charging and batteries, and can understand the cost savings and short-term driving versus long-term driving. You have experience with generators. You have experience with
Oh, boy, do I.
You have so much generator stories that I'm like, you know what? If Mike doesn't buy this truck, then basically I don't know who would.
Interesting.
That's
okay.
like, because I just see it as this redheaded stepchild. I could make that joke. Like no one wants to take much ownership of it. The gas people aren't going to like it because it's not a real engine. It doesn't rev up the way
It's a proven engine, though. It's a proven V6 Pentastar engine that has been in many cars for its
kilowatt.
V6?
What are you talking about?
I guess people like their V8s.
Do you think people who like their V8s are going to install a home charger? They're going to pull out their little J17 plug every night?
I would think people who are in regions where the gas prices are going higher and higher as the months go on are going to look at this and be like, this is worth it. Because it still operates the way that I expect a truck to operate, with an engine and fueling it up and all that. It's just got the nice, beautiful perk of you can plug it in at night. And if you're low on gas, that's okay, because you're still going to get 100 miles plus for wherever you're going.
I just feel like even with the Prius these days, a lot of people just don't want to have to worry about a battery and an engine. You got to maintain both now.
Well, again, I think that's the beauty about this product, is that with a Prius, the engine always has to run, and it's running at variable speeds and or power levels. This thing doesn't have to, necessarily, unless you're really trying to go for like launch modes.
Yeah, it's perfect optimized electricity producing.
Yeah, it's
rate.
always at the lowest, or maybe not always, but in my mind, because they haven't, it's a product that just got announced recently. They haven't detailed out how it works in normal operation.
I don't think they know how it works, honestly.
Their videos seem to indicate that they've tested it a bunch in Arizona, but at least from what I can tell is that it's running at a low speed and providing power to a battery, and then only revs up a bunch when you're doing like a launch mode or a large acceleration. Otherwise,
what is this thing called again?
What
are we talking about?
The Ram 15 Ram Charger.
1500?
We're ramming what?
1500.
Where?
Did I say 15? The Ram 1500 Ram Charger.
I can't believe they call it the Charger.
It's a Ram Charger, which is a name that they used in the past. But I see it as the best. It's the best form of a hybrid that I've seen on the market, because you're not having to tax the engine as much, and you can still rely on the battery without having to run the engine at all. Like, It's the ideal hybrid, in my opinion, compared to everything else, where like you're not having to. The V6 engine isn't being stressed to the amount where it's like, all right, you're gonna need to take this in the next like 10,000 to 15,000 miles.
I will concede that hybrids, for the most part these days, I agree, do not make sense because you can get Teslas for so cheap. Most people don't need that much range. And
Agreed.
You're right that the few people who do need that extra range are the people who are living with trailers and long distance towing because they know that range is getting cut in half. So if you were to make a hybrid, I suppose doing it in the pickup truck long distance towing form would be the best way to justify it because a Prius already is going to cost more after incentives and everything than a Model 3 anyway. So I'm just you don't need a hybrid for a commuter car. We're past that point. That doesn't make sense. But okay, hybrid for the long distance towing because the electric charging infrastructure is not really designed yet. There's not very many options if you want an all electric truck to do long distance towing. There's not. You've got like Rivian Max Pack, the Lightning, which goes a little over 300. Rivian goes 400, but has a kind of lousy charging curve. And the Silverado basically got canceled or pushed back a year.
It's pushed back.
Well, I haven't seen anyone
Get
take
him,
delivery
Mike.
of
Don't
one.
let him bully you.
I could bully GM. Come on. They killed the electric car multiple times. But
Drew too soon.
Never gonna let it go.
Stop.
I'm looking at the web page now for this thing. And
The design's a little bit different than the 1500 Rev. It doesn't look as EV-ish.
oh, really?
Yeah.
It's cool that you can use your smartphone as a key.
Yep.
It supports the Apple Car key
Also,
thing.
hands-free highway assist driving. You don't have to touch the steering wheel.
While you're towing?
I don't think they highlighted that, but at least how they described it for at least just driving in general. You don't need to touch the steering wheel when you get the highway assist. When you're towing, that will make me consider it an absolute win because I think that's what Super Cruise does already, and that's what I like about Super Cruise. And I wish FSD would do it, but the way that FSD behaves, I also don't wish it would have it because it's still a little bit squirty.
Just, you can have, 25,000 pounds going down the freeway with no hands on the wheel. It's great. Yeah. I think it's probably the best argument for a hybrid I've seen. But I'm still skeptical because most of the webpage looks a lot like rendering. They've got these really weird looking smartphones in their interior shots, and
that's the bad thing about the truck is the weird smartphones in there.
Honestly, if you're gonna be falling back on gas and you only use the battery for charging around town, I don't know why you need almost 100 kilowatt hours. That's still a lot. Wouldn't that take this truck like 200 something miles? Probably 250.
150 to 190. I guess it just depends on
it's not,
how much
is that
stuff
what it
is
said?
stuck in this thing. I believe the number that I saw was 150, and then a couple of people who are kind of doing the back of the napkin math were getting like around 190 miles. But that's people who are estimating it.
Huh. That's not very efficient. But
no,
I guess it's got a whole engine
considering
and a big
its
battery.
alternative from RAM is a 229 kilowatt hour battery to go 500 miles is full of...
That was impressive to me. That I thought that was pretty good.
Okay.
I mean,
Well then,
they're
I guess...
still 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour, despite having a way bigger battery. I was like, yeah, that's pretty good.
Well, here, to I guess wrap it around back to Randy's at the very beginning podcast announcement, along with your excitement for this company as well. It seems like Lucid's got a lot going on this month.
Yeah, they announced NACS support, which, for those who don't know, NACS is good for if you want to charge your electric vehicle.
Which the Ram Charger doesn't have.
No, they'll come. They have to come around. Anybody who keeps CCS is gonna look like we're on Betamax. Check us out on Laserdisc. Yeah, it's not gonna last. But
is it too little, too late for these lucid dreams? That's the question Drew poses.
Are you guys at least somewhat relieved that Lucid adopted NACS at this point?
What does that say?
'Cause at least that's something that you were mentioning earlier, Drew, I think in the one podcast where it's just the two of us, that you were excited over the fact that the Gravity gets unveiled and then they open the charge port and surprise everyone with a NACS plug. Like,
see,
it's confirmed at this point that it'll probably have a NACS plug.
In my head, NACS is already won. It's just a matter of time. It's just like, how are you going to announce it? And I thought this was a stupid way to announce it. Like, yes, it's good that it's official now. It's like, oh, okay, so you like charging. Good for you, NACS. But I thought, yeah, the Gravity unveil, when you got a bunch of eyes on it, it's at the LA Auto Show, and you could do a live stream with a reveal video. That would have been the cooler way to do it. You have all these cool shots of the Gravity, and it's real. It's not a render. It's like driving down, going fast, and it's all aerodynamic. And then it stops at a charger, and it showcases, or how does the Lucid charge port? It goes, and then it scratches the paint beneath it. And then you showcase the NACS port all lit up. And everyone goes, wow! You know, that would have been how I announced it. And then, of course, afterwards you could say, yeah, all Lucids will be NACS by this time. Instead, they just did a little newsroom post. Most other companies, Mercedes, GM, Ford, Rivian, they all showed a picture of their vehicle at a supercharger when they announced it. Not Lucid. They just posted a random photo of the car and said, it'll use NACS and it'll supercharge, blah, blah, blah. And it didn't answer everyone's most burning question, which is how fast can the CCS Lucids charge at superchargers, because they're not on the same architecture. So right now they cap out at like 50 kilowatts. How the heck is that going to work? Are superchargers going to be optimized for higher voltages? I hope. And how many of them will there be? That would be the more interesting info. This didn't really say anything, I guess.
It's not how fast can you charge, it's how long are you willing to wait.
True.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be a wait. I think at this point, personally, whoever is funding Lucid will, for some reason, keep funding them. Or they might... honestly, I saw people tweeting today that the Saudis might take Lucid private, which actually makes more sense the more I think about it. They just acquire the whole thing. They already own most of them. But what do you think, Randy? Does Lucid... I'm dying.
It's that bad to mention their name, apparently, for Drew.
I know. It's just all this CCS talk and gasoline talk. I don't know what...
It's clogged up his lungs.
He's getting sick. He's basically one of those 9/11 responders at this point.
I was on your YouTube recommendations too. Oh,
yeah.
My neighbor has a gas vehicle. I apologize. It's affecting my lungs. Do you think Lucid's gonna have any difference in demand because of the NACS announcement, or has nothing really changed?
Minimal change will happen. I would say minimum change happens because Lucid still markets themselves as the premium option, and people who can afford to buy a Lucid brand new straight from the factory line with that new factory car smell. People like us who care about, common sense. People who care more about, efficiencies with the charging over anything else, and having first mover advantage with Tesla. That definitely, we're not the market we're not the target audience for Lucid. It would be people who aren't interested in a Tesla, people who care about quality control, people who most likely own an iPhone, and you got people who don't mind spending that six-figure number to really get their dream sedan. Those guys do not care.
Dream.
Yeah.
Sedan.
What's your dream car?
Guys.
I've never made that joke. Weird. All right.
Should you tweet it or me? Every time I'm
No, we do this in the tech podcast, not the EV podcast.
Can you tweet it all? I don't know.
Ouch, baby. Very ouch. Can I tweet it?
You can tweet it. I'm not monetized on EV.
Oh my god, that's funny. Okay, but anyway, those customers, those guys do not care about the port. They do not care how fast it charges. They've already made up their mind about what they want. It's a status symbol. It's like having an old Rolex, an old broken Rolex that doesn't work anymore, but it's a Rolex.
An old Rolex with a CCS port.
This is what it is. It's a Rolex with a CCS port. They don't care about how terrible it is. They don't care about the utility of it. They care about it being a Rolex, and in this case, it being a Lucid. You know, how many times has somebody commented on one of the videos on these podcasts defending it still, because the fan base that they have, the customer, like, they're very, very loyal. And you know,
I'm impressed by their optimism. It's amazing.
I'm impressed by, we will say, optimism. Yeah, I'm impressed. That's the word I was going to. That's the word I was going to use too.
It doesn't matter how bad they cut their guidance. By the way, I don't know if you guys saw that.
No,
but they've cut it probably 5 times now.
Oh my God.
This one was like, okay, actually, we're only going to make 10,000 cars this year. Actually, did we say 10? 8,000 is more like it.
Yeah. Well, it seems like a whole bunch of these car companies, for some reason, at the end of 2023, want to make these big announcements, like Ram with the Ram Charger and the Rev, and then Lucid with the Gravity, and also the NACS port adoption. And then
well, they had to say later this year all this time. They kept saying later this year. Now they've actually got to live up to the later this year claim.
Oh, kind of like Cybertruck delivery dates.
Oh, that's long gone now.
So do you want to tell me?
We don't worry about those anymore.
Do you want to tell me I'm right now, or do you want to wait until next month?
No,
2
I
weeks.
just mean the Cybertruck's been delayed so many times that no one really thinks about it anymore. It kind of became
not coming. It's not coming this year, guys. It's
vaporware
not coming.
Product.
It's not going to be. It's not going
Randy,
to be.
I saw one with my own eyes. It's
with
coming.
my own. So I'm the only one here who hasn't seen a Cybertruck.
And you know what?
that's
You're more
upsetting.
pure for it, Drew. You're not tainted by lies and
See how
deception.
far I can go.
And if you see a Cybertruck, it's going to go the way of the 15 Pro. You're just going to be wooed by marketing, and you'll just be like, all right, well, I guess.
Imagine that.
I guess.
Drew buys a Cybertruck.
You know,
He caved on the 15 Pro. So that means
the only thing, here's a scenario in which I would buy a Cybertruck. The main interest I have for the Aptera comes down to super high range. I suppose there's a possibility the Cybertruck becomes like the Tesla range king. And if for whatever reason Aptera doesn't make the 1,000-mile range, or they don't, they run into whatever issues, the Cybertruck would probably have the more aggressive charging curve because it's on the higher voltage. And if it does go well over 500 miles, then it would probably make the best road trip time. I wouldn't like the efficiency, but if Tesla keeps up with these free supercharging miles, that won't really affect me, right? So I suppose one day That's just such a waste, I feel like. You just buy a truck so that you can make good time on road trips. I don't know. Probably won't happen.
Well,
if it means trying to tow a trailer with my Model Y versus a Cybertruck, I'm probably going to opt for the Cybertruck if it means I get more range.
Yeah, that's fair. Big battery, go big distance.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
I don't know a scenario where I get the Cybertruck now. I think it's too late.
Really?
I think it's too late.
No.
Yeah.
Wow. Not even Brittany's interested in it anymore? Or is she more just mildly curious now?
No, it's not even. It's just the Y is expensive. We're still paying it, and it's just what's done is done. We waited too long for the truck, and I don't know. Maybe there's a scenario where I would buy it used, like down the road, but
I'll buy the shot up one with all the bullet holes in it.
All the bow and arrows into
I feel like
it.
that would devalue my neighborhood's property value if they see that.
Your pickup is against our HOA rules.
I'm pretty sure I'm not allowed to have bullet holes. The HOA is gonna come back and be like, "Hey, you just lost us $50,000 a house, so could you not?" Yeah, probably maybe used, but we gotta see how long these cars can really last first, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. I'm about to be going to year 5 with the Model 3, and it still feels like I've had it maybe a year and a half. So I can't see why the Model Y would be any different. I don't see the Vasquez household being a Cybertruck owner. Yeah, I think it's too little, too late.
They were very late. I remember you guys were excited for it, but that was like, it's coming out. End of 2021, we're going to be ready. And it was like 2022, 2023. And at a certain point, you're like, I can't keep doing this. But even if you were still waiting on your Cybertruck reservation and she didn't go through with the Model Y, you probably wouldn't get it until August next year.
Yeah, this is the biggest blue spheres they've ever given me. I just can't even... Buzzkill
bigger
much.
than the Vegas sphere.
Yeah.
That's what's bigger than the Vegas sphere. Randy Z.
My
Unveil
blue
something
spheres.
there.
Yeah.
The sphere would be a good place to unveil products or cars or something. That'd be a cool venue.
Especially something like a Cybertruck that has no curvatures. Do it in something that's all curvature.
That's the only Tesla advertising that I'm okay with. All this silly like Twitter or search result Tesla advertising, that annoys me. But like
Just
a Cybertruck or the sexy lineup coming out of like the sphere, but in the optical illusion way that they do, worth it.
It's the outside of the sphere, all white with black text in Comic Sans that says "Buy a Tesla," and the text goes in a circle around the sphere. And Mike would be like, "Yes, good advertising."
That right there.
I think that would be hilarious, honestly.
That's a Super Bowl commercial right there.
Just the buy a Tesla in a circle.
Even on the flat screen for the Super Bowl, it's just Comic Sans going in like a halo path. Just buy a Tesla for about, I don't know, 20 seconds.
memorable.
Now it costs them millions of dollars.
I think brutalist advertising would be far more effective. If you've ever seen that movie, The Invention of Lying, where
with
there's commercials.
Ricky Gervais.
Ricky Gervais, yes. Yeah.
He's just like, "Hello, I'd like you to continue buying Coke. It's very sweet and bad for your health." That's pretty good. He's just brutally honest advertisement. If they were just like, "Hello, we would like you to buy more electric cars. We have made a lot of them. They're very nice. They go fast. Your tires wear out faster. You know,
The planet is already ruined.
Help ruin the roads.
I spent
quicker.
way too much on Twitter, so I'm hoping to make it back on this car sale. See, I think that would be funny. I'm not saying that as a joke. I genuinely think that ad would do well.
That would work.
Like, I bet a lot of people would appreciate the self-awareness and the humility. I
I
think it'd be
spent way
effective.
too much on Twitter. What was it worth? Everything. And buy our stuff.
Oh, last Cybertruck point. Did you guys see the black wrap?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ooh, dude.
It looked
I was about to hold my phone up, but this is
Bad.
the wrong phone.
Oh.
Oh, dude. It looks like
Did you
my
not
phone.
like it?
I don't like it at all.
Why not?
I love it.
What?
Meh.
What's wrong?
Just doesn't tickle my fancy.
Mike, all right. Get your Ram 15,000.
I think Mike is
Whatever.
trolling us, to be honest with you. I think he's trolling about the RAM. I think he's trolling about the matte
Wait a
black.
minute. You said the range was 690. Okay, 6'9". I get it. Okay. It's a meme. It's the funny number range.
The funny... Well, 420?
Well, it goes 69. How do you say that?
Times
I don't
10.
even
have
like
to
that
say-
number. I like 66.
69 times 10. Oh, there you go.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah, I think, Mike, I think you should buy that truck.
Okay. I'll do it just because you told me to.
Cool. I'd appreciate that. Any other
Dude,
any other thoughts before we wrap up? I have to pee.
I kind of
so
brought
bad,
up.
by the way.
I'm holding us here longer just because you stated that.
We got Joe
this is
Rogan
why
over
I-
here. Podcast
I
goes
really
so
don't
long.
need
you
a
just
long.
get-
I'm not getting a Cybertruck. I gotta pee so much. I
I
can't hold it that long. I don't need longer range. I need shorter.
You need larger
Oh.
bladder. You need a higher capacity.
I never have a shorter range, Drew.
Plan.
I always have long range.
Bladder Pack Plus.
There's no short
think some
range here,
people need
buddy.
that. I was
I have
mentioning
the
earlier,
Max Pack bladder.
it seems like everyone is making these announcements at the end of 2023, and I mentioned Canoo. What do you think their announcement's going to be?
They're
Like,
going out of
is it
business.
going to be
They're
we're
closing
finally
doors.
selling vehicles? They're closing.
They're shutting the system down. They're going up.
They delivered a couple LVs to NASA and said, "Yep, that's enough."
All right,
They
goodbye.
teased with the invite, like November 10th or whatever, with the truck and everything, and then on November 10th, they're like, "We're bankrupt."
Confetti and all.
They like unveil the truck. The truck spells out, "We're bankrupt" on like a wrap on the side.
This little toilet
I'm
paper
amazed.
confetti just... It's the most lackluster.
Canoo is the Jimmy Carter of EV startups. Like, you don't know why
think
they're
still
still
around?
around.
We almost
Don't know
win.
how. Like, how are they alive right now?
Jimmy
And they
Carter's
just
going
keep
to
going.
outlive Canoo's business, like their life cycle. He's going to outlive
Well,
their
that's not
business.
surprising, but
I thought we were done
They're-
with this last week.
they're almost a penny stock, and they're still announcing new models. Like, I don't know what they're doing. I'm pretty sure based
Pretty
on
sure
the
Leonardo
silhouette,
DiCaprio tried to sell me on that stock once.
that
That was
makes
Matt
sense.
Damon.
He was doing this to me a lot. He's like, "Yeah, you want to get it."
That's
Well, is it cool?
McConaughey. But it's a 4-door pickup, I think.
Oh.
It's like a longer version of the pickup, which they also don't make. So I don't know why they're unveiling new designs. Maybe they're hoping that'll boost the stock. Also, the Go EV shareholders, very optimistic, to put it nicely, passionate group of people that are just cheering on everything they do. I'm a shareholder, by the way, and I think it's pretty hopeless. So I've just the stock has dropped so much that it's literally not even worth selling, because of how little I would get back anyway that I'm just ride or die now. I am going to hold the line on Canoo until I die, basically. So
it costs me more to use my data to go into the app to use that time to sell it and get off the app than it would if I just left it alone.
We're getting to the point
Canoo.
where
I'm just kidding. I don't own any Canoo.
if the stock drops any further, Mike might be able to just buy them out. I think
I
all
would
of
take
us,
Canoo to the moon and a half if they went that low.
the three of us, if all of us pitch in a little bit, I think we could buy
Technically,
out the whole company.
I'm pretty
Canoo
sure I got a quarter
does
laying
take people
around.
to the moon because it takes Artemis astronauts to the moon. So Canoo does go to the moon.
My Five Guys lunch cost more than Canoo, the company.
Drew, I didn't know you had $20 just laying around. Oh.
Apple, they're still open. Think about it. Think about it.
Think about it.
Well, I think they're going to unveil another truck that they won't make. But what do you think it is?
I don't know. I honestly have no clue at this point. And you've just reminded me that they've announced so many different things and nothing has been made physical besides the LVs becoming the new Airstreams that take astronauts to the launch pad. So
Their multi-purpose vehicle was in She-Hulk. Did you know that?
the multi-purpose delivery vehicle, or do you mean the LV, the lifestyle vehicle?
No. I saw a screenshot of it, the multi-purpose delivery vehicle.
How did I miss this? I watched that whole series.
I have no idea.
Or I guess season.
Canoo, let me find the picture. I saw a screenshot of it. I was like, I don't watch She-Hulk, but
I guess while you're looking
people
it
are
up, Randy, what's the next company that adopts NACS?
there's not a lot of choices left.
I want to say it kind of has to be Volvo, right? Not Volvo, I'm sorry, Volkswagen. Right?
It's either
has to
Volkswagen
be.
or Stellantis. Or
Let me see. Give me a second.
Ferrari.
I know.
Or Canoo, or Ferrari.
Has Canoo not
Or-
announced? Oh, geez.
Nope. Canoo hasn't adopted NACS.
Oh, come on.
Maybe that's
Well,
their
I hope
announcement.
when they unveil the new four-door truck, it has the NACS port on it.
That doesn't look like the multi-purpose delivery. That's just the pickup.
Okay.
That's not the multi-purpose delivery.
It was at this point Drew forgot his mic was muted due to his coughing fit.
That looks like an LV. They added some stuff onto it. That's not the LV or the multi-purpose delivery vehicle.
Oh, sorry. I was muted. They added some stuff to
That's
it.
so funny. It's like
But
I
it's
heard you
still a
just fine.
boxy.
Okay.
I don't think this. Who do you think?
They
Randy?
make very cool movie props.
They do.
I say it will be Volkswagen or Mazda. I want to say the Jeep, Ram, and all those guys, but now Mazda, because they're small enough that it won't hurt them, but they're big enough in brand that it matters.
I could see Ram announcing for the Ram Charger. Ram announces support of the gas ports. It's just a. Oh no! There's hearts everywhere.
You
came
saw
out
it
of
here,
nowhere.
folks who are
The
watching the
gas port.
podcast.
No,
Drew loves
wasn't
the
my
Ram
guess.
Charger.
Yep.
I don't think it.
Nope. That's going in the final
it's-
edit.
No, I don't think so. It only shows up in Discord.
In Discord. Oh, dang it.
I don't think it showed up in. No, I can't
was
even do it on purpose. I can only do it if I do.
A circle.
That got recorded.
Weird.
Yep.
Anyway,
That got recorded.
that's that. Any final words, Chance?
What was your predicted next NACS adopter, Drew?
Yeah, I agree. I think Volkswagen is basically already there. They Electrify America already announced NACS. VW's actually making a lot of EVs, kind of. Stellantis, not really. So it could go either way. Stellantis switching to NACS wouldn't be that hard because they're not making that many. So it could go either, but probably Volkswagen because they're probably just holding out on the higher voltages. But now Lucid's already announced it, so whatever Lucid's doing, just do that any day now. It could have been announced by the time you guys are listening to this podcast.
Everybody will fall in line or they will die. Last time I said that, I was talking about Lucid, and guess what? They fell in line like the obedient little passionate company that they are.
They are passionate.
Oh,
So was
Did I mention that I saw a Hummer SUV EV?
no. Can we talk about that for a minute?
Oh, speaking of monstrosities. Speaking of
Oh, did you see a
terrible
Lucid
ideas.
out there in the wild?
I did actually.
I'm so
You
sorry.
did? Oh.
Saw a couple.
No wonder you're sick.
Explains a lot. All right. I think we're done.
I think we're
We
done.
need to wrap this up once got talked about. See you later, y'all.
Bye-bye.